Well, we have a very exciting video for you guys today because not only is this a brand new bike release from Felt, the Felt IA 2.0, but also multiple Ironman world champion Daniela Ryf's bike. So I'm going to be delving into this radical new design from Felt, as well as Daniela's bike setup. Now, it's worth me starting this video by explaining that we are filming this bike way in advance of you guys seeing it and way in advance of the official release of this bike. We've been very fortunate to have been given this bike by Daniela Ryf ahead of the Collins Cup in Slovakia. And I've been told by Felt that this is a 99.99% finished bike. And I say that because the carbon mold, the design, is exactly as you'll see on the release date. There's just a couple of small minor changes with bolts and things like that they'll be making in due course. Things that you guys won't even notice. Now, in terms of the design itself, the IA has changed quite radically. I mean, if you compare it to the previous one, the actual down tube and the seat post is actually a lot slimmer than the previous design, but I think the top tube and the seat tube kind of make up for that. So now on the top tube, we've got this hydration system built into it, as well as the bento box, which is pretty neat. I'll explain more on that later on. And then we've got a storage system on that seat tube with a cool fin off the back. We've also got almost this like fairing design off the front. But all in all, a big change from the previous design. Okay, so let's take a look at the front end of this bike. And it's pretty cool, particularly when you look at it front on. So we've got this really dramatic curvature in the base bar down towards the ball horns on the outer edges. And also interestingly, we've got these bolts underneath the ball horns, which to me suggests that you can remove those ball horns. They're interchangeable, perhaps with different options, maybe angled options. So really quite adjustable. The aero bars themselves come up off the base bar with these risers in quite a standard fashion. However, rather than you adding in angled shims to angle those aero bars, you actually can just release a bolt here, and the aero bars are attached on a pivot system, so you can then rotate and move those aero bars, clamp that back down, and voila. So really quite cool. She's using I guess you call like an S-bend on those aero bars. Interestingly, and I think this is an aftermarket addition from Daniela, she's actually got these little shims in between the aero bars themselves and the elbow cups, just to almost make those elbow cups in line with the upper end of the aero bars. And then on top of that, she's got those ergon pads, which we've seen on the Canyon bikes and whatnot in the past, and they are super comfortable. And also, whilst we're here talking about the front end, let's touch on the gearing for a second, because again, we've got something quite interesting going on here. So the bike is kitted out with Shimano Dura Ace electronic gears, obviously. On the aero bars, we've got double shifters, double buttons on each pole. On the base bar, on the ball horns, we've got one shifter on each lever, but we've also got additional shifters underneath. Almost the sprinting shifters that you get on road bikes sometimes. Now, I assumed that one set was for the front mech and the other set for the rear mech, but it actually turns out both are for the rear mech, which I guess suggests that maybe Daniela just likes to have the option when she's in different positions. So it's really quite interesting. I've never seen that before. She's got the lizard skin bar tape on both the base bar and the aero bar, which is really grippy stuff. Also, we've got the X-Lab torpedo bottle on the aero bars, which we've seen her using on a lot of bikes in the past, and is clearly just very comfortable with that setup. Interestingly, I can't see a bike computer here, and I have asked, and apparently she just rarely uses one. And I'm not sure I can see a power meter either. Of course, this was her setup back in August of last year. She has since made some modifications in the lead up to the Ironman World Championships in St. George. Not only is she on a new colourway, we have also seen her riding and testing some new Swiss side aero bars, presumably custom made to fit Daniela's arms, supporting her arms from elbow to wrist, still with room for a bottle between the arms. And now on to the wheels, long-standing partner of Daniela, DT Swiss. So she has got on the front the DT Swiss Arc 1100 die-cut 80 wheel, an 80mm depth front wheel, which is a tubeless ready wheel, which she has got set up tubeless. And on the rear, we've got the brand new DT Swiss disc wheel. Again, set up tubeless. We've got the Continental GP 5000 tyres, 25mm on the front and 28mm on the rear. Then on to some of the components. So we've got, as I mentioned already, Dura Ace setup here. We've got 56-44 front chain rings there, so pretty meaty, but a pretty flat and fast course out here, although I know Daniela's renowned for having pretty big gear ratios. She's got 1128 on the rear here. She's actually running 172.5 crank lengths, which is longer than I expected, but clearly works for her. And then the speed play pedals on the end of those. And then whilst we're at the back and the rear of the bike, let's talk about the saddle and whatnot. So Daniela's using this Cellitalia Turbomatic Gel Flow saddle, which is a long-standing and pretty classic saddle for Cellitalia, and one that I imagine Daniela's used for many years. And I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So I'm sure she's probably used that for many years and will continue to do so. Off the rear of that, she's using the X-Lab Carbon Wing 400i, which allows you to store 2 bottles as well as spares. I've got to say, it's almost an Ironman setup here. Whether she's planning on removing some of that ahead of this, I guess, middle distance race here in Slovakia, I don't know. We've also got some other extras. So we do actually have a storage system here below the saddle, below the seat post. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have this bento box cum hydration system. So the hydration system slots into the top tube with the bento box built in above. You can actually refill the bottle through here as you're going, but we've also got these tabs here which you can pull up, give them a little turn, pull them out and pull the whole system off. I'm not going to do that just in case I break Daniela's bike ahead of the race. And then in front of that, we've got the Di2 junction box also neatly stored within this stem cover. So all in all, a very, very fancy setup. Okay, I think the only thing left to do now is the weight and the free hub sound check. Now, this does come with a caveat. She's got her spares already on, bottles already on, but here we go, moment of truth. Ooh. 10.84, pretty good. And then for the bit that some of you have been waiting for, here we go. Naughty. Wow, what a bike and what a design. Let us know what you think to the new Felt IA 2.0 in the comments section down below. Thank you once again to Daniela for allowing us to talk you through this bike today. If you've enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe just down below.